All right, everyone get ready, because today we're going deep into a Reddit thread that's pretty wild.
Seems fun.
So we're talking about this whole idea of like, can your Myers-Briggs type actually tell you something?
Oh.
You know, like your sexual preferences.
Okay, yeah.
Are you more vanilla or,
Interesting.
you know, more adventurous in the bedroom?
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a question a lot of people have, right? Trying to figure out, is there a connection between who we are and what we like in the bedroom?
Yeah, exactly. And this thread, it really went there.
Oh, wow.
So we found some pretty interesting stuff.
Awesome. I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, so one of the big things that popped up, and I was reading this thread, and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is this a thing?
What is it?
So apparently there's this stereotype out there that INFPs are like kinky submissives.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Kinky submissives. That's a pretty specific stereotype.
It is. And it's like, where does this come from?
Yeah, where does that come from?
Well,
I mean, I guess to understand that we kind of have to like take a step back and think about what are the core traits of an INFP?
Right. So break it down for us.
Like what makes them tick?
Yeah. What makes an INFP an INFP?
So INFPs, they're often described as, idealistic, deeply empathetic. And they're really driven by this strong sense of personal values. They really thrive on authentic connection. And often they prioritize their partner's needs and desires above their own.
So you're saying like their empathy and their desire to please could actually be kind of contributing to this whole like submissive stereotype.
It's possible, right?
Okay.
But it's important to remember that we're talking about like a very complex interplay here of personality traits and individual experiences.
Very cool.
So it's never as simple as just saying all INFPs are like this.
No, definitely not. And this thread actually proves that point.
Oh, really?
Because guess what?
What?
There was an INFP dominatrix.
Whoa.
Who jumped into the conversation.
Okay, hold on. An INFP dominatrix, that kind of flips the script.
It does.
Talk about shattering stereotypes, right?
Right. And I think that's a really important point that this whole thread brings up.
Yeah.
Which is that you can't just use MBTI to like put people in boxes.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always going to be...
There's always variation within any personality type. It's more about understanding like tendencies, not defining absolutes.
So we shouldn't be making these sweeping judgments based on just those 4 letters.
Right.
No more like all INFPs are.
Exactly.
Or all ENTPs always.
Yeah. Human sexuality is a vast and complex landscape.
For sure.
And, to try to reduce it to just these simple personality categories, I think would be doing a real disservice to the diversity of human experience.
Okay, so let's actually dive into some of these comments from the Reddit thread, because it was quite the ride.
I bet it was.
Let me tell you.
I can imagine.
It's like a roller coaster.
Oh, wow.
Of opinions and experiences.
Yeah, it seems like people were really eager to share their thoughts on this topic. It's something that's personal?
Yes.
Maybe even a little taboo?
Definitely a little taboo.
Yeah.
So one commenter said, and I quote, "A free spot is a free spot," right? Let's just play Go Fish and watch these puppets dance.
Okay.
I have no idea what that means.
I don't know what that means either. But it sounds fun.
It does sound fun.
Maybe they're just trying to like lighten the mood with a little humor.
Yeah.
Which, can be a way of dealing with uncomfortable or sensitive topics, right?
For sure.
Like a little deflection.
Oh, yeah. And then there was this gem. Domino, Nintendo Switch, and Subway. Also, what flavor ice cream is kinky? Is that like strawberry?
Okay, that one's a little out there.
I know, right?
Clearly some people are just here for the entertainment.
Yeah, right? It's not always about the science.
Not always about the science.
Sometimes it's just about the laughs.
Sometimes it's just about having fun.
Exactly. Okay, so back to the INFPs for a sec.
All right.
We've talked about this whole kinky submissive stereotype.
Yeah.
But then we have this like real life example of an INFP dominatrix.
Yes.
How do we make sense of that?
Yeah, how do you reconcile those two things?
Yeah.
I think this is where we really start to see the limitations of MBTI.
Okay.
It's a useful tool for self-reflection.
Yeah.
But it can't be used to just like box people in. There will always be exceptions to the rule.
Right. So what's the takeaway here?
Yeah, what are we supposed to do with this information?
Like, how should we be thinking about MBTI in relation to intimacy?
I think the key is to use MBTI as a tool for self-awareness. And understanding, but not as like a definitive guide to who you are or what you should be doing in the bedroom.
Don't put people in boxes.
Exactly.
Based on 4 letters.
Embrace the complexity and the diversity of human experience. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to intimacy.
All right, I like that.
Right.
So this thread was just full of all these comments from people of all different MBTI types weighing in on their own experiences and the experiences of their partners.
I bet.
Some people were like, wow, this is surprisingly accurate.
Yeah.
And other people were like,
not so much.
not so much.
Yeah.
But what I found so interesting is just how passionate people were about, like, defending their own type or challenging the stereotypes of other types.
Because, like, everybody wants to be seen as an individual.
Yes.
Not just a collection of letters.
Exactly. And rightfully so.
Yeah.
We are all unique individuals.
Absolutely.
With our own complex set of experiences and desires.
Yeah.
And MBTI can be helpful for self-discovery, but it's just one piece of the puzzle.
It's just one piece of the puzzle.
So we've got this whole debate raging in this thread.
Uh-huh.
Are INFPs really these, like, kinky submissives?
Right.
Are MBTI types even relevant to sexual preferences?
Yeah.
But there's another layer to this whole discussion.
Oh.
Something that really struck me.
Yeah. What is that?
As we were reading through these comments.
Jeremy?
It's about more than just, like, figuring out who's into what.
Okay.
It's about understanding ourselves and our place in the world.
Okay.
It's about connection and belonging.
I think you're right.
Like, people are hungry for insights into themselves.
Absolutely.
And other.
We all want to know why we are the way we are.
Right. And maybe, just maybe, they're hoping that something like MBTI can give them a shortcut.
Oh, interesting.
To that understanding.
Like a little cheat code to
Yeah.
figure ourselves out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very human impulse, right?
Yeah.
To look for meaning and connection, to find our tribe,
Yeah.
to feel like we belong.
Exactly. And in a world
Yeah.
that can often feel so isolating and overwhelming, it's no surprise that people are drawn to these systems that offer a sense of order and understanding.
I get it.
All right, so let's move beyond the INFPs for a moment. Let's take a peek at some of the other personality types that were mentioned in the thread.
Sounds good.
What were people saying about ENTPs?
Oh, the ENTPs.
Yeah, those quick-witted, debate-loving folks.
Yeah. Well, they were often described as being adventurous and intellectually curious with this, like, penchant for pushing boundaries.
All right, so the stereotype is that ENTPs are the ones who are always up for trying new things in the bedroom.
Yeah, basically.
That sounds intriguing.
It does, doesn't it?
I'm not gonna lie.
But remember, we're talking about, like, perceived tendencies here.
Right.
Not absolute.
Sure.
Not every ENTP is going to be a sexual daredevil.
Right.
Just like not every INFP is going to be a submissive partner.
Of course, individual variation is key.
Always.
So what about those ENTPs who are maybe a little bit more on the, let's say, traditional side?
Okay. Yeah, the more traditional ENTPs.
Yeah.
What about them?
What were people saying about them?
Well, even those who expressed a preference for, more conventional intimacy, they often emphasize the importance of intellectual and emotional connection.
So for them, it's about more than just the physical act.
Yeah, it's about connecting with their partner on a deeper level.
Got it.
Like really connecting.
Okay, so enough about ENTPs for now.
Okay.
What about INTJs?
Yes.
Are people buying into the whole, like, mastermind stereotype?
Oh, there were definitely a lot of comments about that.
Okay.
INTJs with their strategic minds and their preference for control.
Yeah.
They were often perceived as being
dominant,
yeah.
In relationships, both inside and outside the bedroom.
Exactly.
So people are picturing INTJs as the ones calling the shots.
Seems like it.
In the bedroom.
That's the stereotype, at least.
Right. But couldn't that same strategic thinking also make them really attentive and giving partners?
Oh, absolutely.
Regardless of whether they're dominant or submissive.
Yeah. I mean, their strategic mind could definitely be applied to creating a pleasurable and fulfilling experience for their partner.
Right. It's not just about, like, being bossy.
It's about strategy.
Yeah.
It's about planning.
It's about thoughtfulness.
Yeah.
All right, so it seems like INTJs, just like any other type, can embrace a whole range of preferences and styles.
Absolutely.
It's less about the label and more about how they choose to express themselves within a relationship.
Within the relationship, that's what matters.
Okay, before we move on to the next personality type, I have to share this comment. That I read.
All right.
Because it absolutely cracked me up.
I love a good laugh.
Someone wrote, Domino, Nintendo Switch, and Subway. Also, What flavor ice cream is kinky? Is that like strawberry?
What?
I know, right?
I don't even know where to begin with that one.
I don't either.
It's like a stream of consciousness that just went off the rails.
But hey, you know...
Maybe they're just trying to be funny. It's a way to deflect of a topic that maybe makes them a little uncomfortable.
Right, like I don't want to talk about my kinks, so I'm just going to throw some random words.
Distract.
Dominoes,
Domino.
Nintendo Switch, and Subway.
Sure.
And then ice cream.
Why not?
Why not? All right, so we talked about INFPs.
Yes.
We've talked about ENTPs. We've talked about INTJs. So what's next?
Let's talk about ISTPs.
Okay, the ISTPs.
Those cool, calm, and collected folks.
Yes, the ISTPs. What were people saying about them?
So ISTPs were often described as being adventurous.
Open to experimentation. And some users even suggested that they might lean towards kink.
Interesting.
So the stereotype is that ISTPs are down to try anything once.
Yeah, kind of like a why not attitude.
Right. But isn't that a bit of a generalization?
Well, I mean, it's true that all the STPs share a certain zest for life.
Yeah.
And a willingness to embrace new experiences.
But what makes ISTPs stand out?
I think what sets ISTPs apart is their combination of practicality and a really deep connection to their senses. So this might translate into a more like hands-on experimental approach to intimacy.
Yeah.
A desire to really like explore different sensations and techniques.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So what about those ISTPs who are more on the vanilla side of the spectrum?
The vanilla ISTPs, what about them?
Any insights into their preferences?
Well, even those who, said they preferred more traditional intimacy, they still often emphasize the importance of physical touch and sensory experiences. So for them, it's about being present in the moment, savoring each sensation, and connecting with their partner on a physical and emotional level.
That makes sense.
Right.
Given that ISTPs are known for being so in tune with their physical surroundings.
Yeah, they're not the type to get lost in their heads.
Yeah.
During intimate moments. They're very present.
Exactly.
Which can make them incredibly attentive.
Yeah.
And passionate partners.
Awesome. All right, so we've covered INFPs.
Yes.
ENTPs.
Yes.
INTJs. ISTPs. That leaves us with...
Okay, who's left?
The INFJs.
Ah, the INFJs.
Those insightful, empathetic souls.
Yes.
What were people saying about them in the realm of intimacy?
Well, INFJs were often described as being incredibly attuned to their partner's needs and desires, which makes them, incredibly versatile and fulfilling partners.
So INFJs are like the chameleons of the bedroom.
That's maybe a bit of an oversimplification.
Sure.
But there's definitely a sense that INFJs are highly intuitive and responsive to their partners. They have a deep capacity for empathy. And are often motivated by a desire to create harmonious and meaningful connections. They want their partner to feel seen, understood, and deeply satisfied.
So they're not just focused on their own pleasure.
Right.
But on the overall experience of intimacy.
Exactly.
That sounds pretty amazing.
It does, doesn't it?
I mean, wouldn't that make them incredible lovers?
They definitely have that potential.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that even INFJs have their own needs and desires.
Of course.
And it's really crucial for them, just like anyone else, to set healthy boundaries and communicate their own needs effectively.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they might end up feeling resentful or unfulfilled in the long run.
That's a really good point.
Right.
So even for INFJs.
Even for the INFJs.
Who are often seen as these like magical, intuitive beings.
Right.
Open and honest communication is still key.
It's key for everybody.
To a healthy and fulfilling relationship.
Absolutely. Communication is the foundation of any strong partnership, regardless of personality type or sexual preferences.
All right, so we've talked about INFPs.
We have.
ENTPs. INTJs, ISTPs, and INFJs.
That's 5.
It's 5 out of the 16 MBTI types.
We're just getting started.
I know, we're just scratching the surface here.
There's so much more to explore.
And we've only just begun to explore the complexities of these 5 types.
Right, imagine what the other 11 holds.
I know.
It's exciting.
It's going to be a wild ride.
I can't wait. Welcome back to our deep dive. It's getting steamy in here.
It is. We're talking MBTI and, intimacy, shall we say?
Let's just say it.
So we're picking up right where we left off with this Reddit thread.
Oh, yeah. This thread is wild.
It's a wild one.
So many opinions.
So many opinions. And it's all about Can your Myers-Briggs type really predict what goes on?
Behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors, exactly. And as we go deeper, I think it's really important to remember that we're approaching this with like a curious and open mind.
Always.
Recognizing that while MBTI can be super fun for self-discovery, it's not a definitive guide to anyone's behavior.
Absolutely not, especially when it comes to something as personal as intimacy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So before we ventured into the other personality types, we were talking about how INFPs, with their deep empathy and desire for connection, are often stereotyped as kinky submissives.
Right.
But then we also heard from an INFP dominatrix who was like out there shattering those stereotypes.
That's amazing.
Right. It just shows you the diversity within personality types.
Huge diversity.
So let's go back to those INFPs for a moment.
Okay.
There was this one comment in the thread that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, what was it?
Because it perfectly captured like the inner conflict that some INFPs might experience when it comes to this whole dominance and submission thing.
Okay. I'm listening.
So they said, sounds about right. I'm not really that kinky, but not 100% vanilla either. Submissive, though? Hell yes. My last ex wanted me to be more dominant in bed. Nah, Sam, that's not me.
Oh, wow.
It's like they're saying, I want to go with the flow, but don't ask me to steer the ship.
Don't make me the captain.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So could that reluctance to take charge be connected to the INFP's tendency?
It's possible.
Towards introversion?
Yeah, I mean, INFPs being introverted feelers, they are often more comfortable responding to their partner's lead rather than initiating or directing the action.
Interesting.
It's not necessarily about a lack of desire or passion, but it's more about a preference for a more receptive role.
Okay.
You know, going with the flow.
But then you have other INFPs.
Right.
Like our dominatrix friend.
Our dominatrix friend.
Who find fulfillment in a completely different dynamic.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
So how do we account for that?
I think it really just underscores the importance of individual experience and personal growth.
Right.
You know, we can't assume that everyone within a personality type is going to follow the same path or express their sexuality in the same way.
Right. It's all about those individual
journeys.
Journeys and experiences.
Life experiences, personal values, individual desires all play a role.
It's like those memes where they show all the different flavors.
Oh, yeah.
For a particular MBTI type.
I love those.
There's always a spectrum.
Always a spectrum.
Even within those 4 letters.
Absolutely. It's so important to avoid stereotyping.
Yes.
Or making assumptions about individuals based solely on their MBTI type.
Okay, so we've talked about INFPs.
Yes.
What about some of the other types that sparked debate in this thread?
Okay, which one do you want to talk about next?
I'm curious to hear what people were saying about the ENTPs.
Oh, the ENTPs.
Those charismatic, debate-loving folks.
Right. Always ready for a good argument.
So ENTPs were a particularly interesting case.
Okay. How so?
Some users argued that their love for novelty and pushing boundaries would make them naturally inclined towards kink.
Interesting.
One commenter even described themselves as generally quite kinky.
Quite kinky. I like that.
Quite kinky. But wouldn't that tendency to push boundaries be more aligned with a dominant role?
That's what makes it so fascinating, right? It's like this unexpected twist.
Yeah.
What's really intriguing is that even those who identified as kinky often expressed a preference for submission.
Really?
Especially when they were paired with a partner they respected or admired.
So even within their adventurous spirit, there's still a desire for that.
Absolutely.
Intellectual and emotional connection.
Yeah, it's not just about the physical experience for them.
It's about more than just the sensations.
It's deeper than that.
There's a mental and emotional dynamic at play.
One ENTP user put it this way: I'm hella submissive, though, especially if I'm with a dominant person that I have a lot of respect for.
Okay, so maybe for some ENTPs, submitting to someone they admire allows them to tap into a different side of themselves.
Like a side that's less about being on all the time and more about surrendering to a deeper connection.
That's a really interesting way to put it.
Yeah, it challenges that common perception of ENTPs always needing to be in control.
Yeah, maybe for them, submission in the right context can actually be a form of intellectual and emotional stimulation.
Okay, enough about ENTPs for now.
Right.
What about INTJs?
INTJs.
Were people buying into that stereotype of the mastermind dumb?
Oh, there were definitely a lot of comments along those lines. One user even said, There is no way an INTJ could be anything other than kinky or in betweendom.
Okay, so people are picturing INTJs.
As the strategic take-charge types.
In the bedroom?
Yeah, in the bedroom. But couldn't that same strategic thinking also translate into being a very attentive and giving partner?
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of whether they're dominant or submissive.
It's about using their skills
Right.
to create a positive experience.
Yeah, and it seems like INTJs, just like any other type, can embrace a wide range of preferences and styles.
Of course they can.
It's less about the label.
Yeah.
And more about how they choose to express themselves within a relationship.
It's all about how you show up
Right.
in that relationship.
Okay, before we move on to the next personality type.
Yeah.
I have to share this comment.
Oh, another funny one.
That I read because it was just too good.
Okay, I'm ready.
Someone wrote, Domino Nintendo Switch and Subway. Also, what flavor ice cream is kinky? Is that like strawberry?
Wow, what is happening?
I don't know.
That's amazing.
Just like a random assortment of words.
Maybe they're just messing with us.
Maybe they were just hungry?
Maybe they were just hungry for Domino's and ice cream.
And a Nintendo Switch.
And a Nintendo Switch, why not?
Okay, so we've talked about INFPs, ENTPs, and INTJs.
Yes.
What about ISTPs?
Ah, the ISTPs.
Those cool, calm, and collected folks.
What were people saying about them?
ISTPs were often described as being adventurous and open to experimentation.
Okay, so similar to the ENTPs in some ways.
Yeah, and some users even suggested they might lean towards kink.
Interesting.
So stereotype is that ISTPs are down to try anything once.
Yeah, like a no-fear kind of approach.
But isn't that a bit of a generalization?
Well, it's true that all the SP types share a certain zest for life and a willingness to embrace new experiences.
Okay, but what makes ISTPs stand out?
I think what sets ISTPs apart is their combination of practicality and a deep connection to their senses.
Okay.
So this might translate into a more hands-on experimental approach to intimacy.
Interesting.
A desire to explore different sensations and techniques.
Yeah, like they're really in tune with their bodies.
Exactly.
So what about those ISTPs who are more on the vanilla side of the spectrum?
Yeah, what about them?
Any insights into their preferences?
Well, even those who expressed a preference for more traditional intimacy often emphasize the importance of physical touch and sensory experiences.
Okay, so it's still about those sensations.
Yeah, for them it's about being present in the moment, savoring each sensation and connecting with their partner on a physical and emotional level.
Okay, so they're not just going through the motions.
Yeah, they're really there.
They're present.
Present in the moment.
That makes sense, given that ISTPs are known for being so in tune with their physical surroundings.
Right, they're very grounded.
And sensations.
They're not the type to get lost in their heads during these moments.
Right, they're very much in their bodies.
Very much in their bodies, exactly.
Okay, so we've covered INFPs, ENTPs, INTJs, and ISTPs.
Okay.
That leaves us with the INFJs.
Ah, the INFJs.
Those insightful, empathetic souls.
Always deep, always insightful.
What were people saying about them in the realm of intimacy?
Well, INFJs were often described as being incredibly attuned to their partner's needs and desires, which makes them incredibly versatile and fulfilling partners.
So INFJs are like the chameleons of the bedroom?
I mean, that's a bit of an oversimplification.
Of course.
But there's definitely a sense that INFJs are highly intuitive and responsive to their partners.
They just have that sense.
They have a deep capacity for empathy.
Yeah.
And are often motivated by a desire to create harmonious and meaningful connections.
Okay, so it's not just about the physical pleasure for them.
It's about the connection.
Yeah.
It's about creating something special.
So they're not just focused on their own pleasure.
Right.
They're focused on the overall experience of intimacy.
The whole package.
That sounds pretty amazing.
It does, doesn't it?
Wouldn't that make them incredible lovers?
They certainly have that potential.
Okay.
But it's important to remember that even INFJs have their own needs and desires.
Of course.
And it's crucial for them, just like anyone else, to set healthy boundaries and communicate their own needs effectively.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they might risk feeling resentful or unfulfilled in the long run.
That's a good point. You can't just give and give and give.
Yeah. You have to take care of yourself, too.
And make sure your needs are being met.
Absolutely.
So even for INFJs, open and honest communication
is
key to a healthy and fulfilling relationship.
Always.
All right. So we've talked about INFPs, ENTPs, INTJs, ISTPs, and INFJs.
Wow, that's a lot of types.
That's 5 out of the 16 MBTI types.
We're on a roll.
We're clearly just scratching the surface here.
There's so much more to explore.
And we've only just begun to explore the complexities of these 5 types.
Imagine what the other 11 hold.
It's exciting.
It's going to be a wild ride.
All right, deep divers, welcome back for the final part.
Part 3.
Of our exploration of this Reddit thread that's got everyone talking about MBTI and, well...
the spicy side of life.
The spicy side of life, shall we say.
Let's just say it.
We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have from INFP dominatrixes to the importance of communication.
Right.
It seems like this topic has struck a nerve.
It really has. It's like people are both fascinated and maybe a little apprehensive about exploring this connection between personality and intimacy.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Intimacy is such a personal part of our lives.
It is.
And the idea that something like your MBTI type could actually influence your preferences or behaviors, it can be intriguing and a little unnerving at the same time.
Okay, so before we dive into the last batch of comments, let's do a quick recap.
Okay, recap time.
We've talked about 5 of the 16 MBTI types.
5 down, 11 to go.
INFPs, ENTPs, INTJs, ISTPs, and INFJs.
The good mix.
And what we've seen is that even within those 5 types, there's just this huge range of preferences and experiences.
Huge.
Which I think really reinforces the idea that MBTI, while it's a valuable tool for self-discovery, it shouldn't be used to create these rigid categories or make assumptions about individuals.
No more stereotyping.
Right. No more stereotyping. So what other nuggets of wisdom did you find in that Reddit thread?
Oh, there's so many good ones.
Were there any particularly insightful or surprising comments that stood out to you?
You know, one exchange that really caught my attention was focused on the differences between sensing and intuitive types when it comes to intimacy.
All right, sensing versus intuitive. Let's get into it.
So this ENTP user proposed that intuitive types, with their focus on abstract concepts and future possibilities, might be more inclined towards kink and experimentation.
Hold on. Isn't that a bit of a generalization?
I mean, it's just one person's perspective. Likely influenced by their own experiences and biases.
Of course. But it does make you wonder if there's any truth to that idea.
Right.
That intuitive types, with their tendency to think outside the box, might be more open to exploring unconventional forms of intimacy.
It's an interesting hypothesis, for sure.
It is.
Intuitive types, they often thrive on novelty and intellectual stimulation. So it's possible that this translates into a desire for more variety and experimentation.
You've seen their intimate lives.
Exactly.
But let's not forget about the sensing types.
Right.
They could be adventurous and spontaneous, too.
Absolutely.
I mean, look at the ISTPs we were just talking about.
Right. They're all about hands-on exploration and sensory experiences.
Exactly. It's all about finding what works for you and your partner.
That's what matters.
Regardless of your MBTI type.
Couldn't agree more.
And communication is key.
Always key.
To discovering those shared desires and boundaries.
Could have said it better myself.
Speaking of communication, I stumbled across this comment from an ISTP.
Oh, yeah.
That made me chuckle.
What was it?
It was in response to another user who had jokingly posted an ad looking for an INFP kinky sub to love and cuddle.
Oh, my gosh.
The ISTP simply wrote, "Where do I submit my application?"
That's hilarious.
I know, right?
Classic ISTP humor.
It's just a reminder that even in the anonymous realm of the internet, people can still feel a little vulnerable when they're discussing something as personal as their sexual preferences.
It's a sensitive topic.
It is.
For sure.
And a little bit of laughter never hurt anyone.
It can definitely lighten the mood.
It's a way of acknowledging the awkwardness and keeping the conversation lighthearted.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta laugh.
Okay, so we've talked about sensing versus intuitive. What about the other dimensions of the MBTI framework?
Okay, so thinking versus feeling. Judging versus perceiving.
Did you notice any interesting discussions or patterns related to those dimensions?
There were definitely some comments that touched on those aspects.
I was like, what?
For instance, one user suggested that feeling types, with their emphasis on emotional connection and harmony, might be more inclined towards sensual and romantic forms of intimacy.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Feeling types are all about those deep, heartfelt connections. It seems natural that this would extend to their intimate relationships as well.
Right. They want that emotional depth in all areas of their lives.
Okay, what about thinking types?
Well, another user argued that judging types, with their preference for structure and order, might be more likely to have specific preferences and boundaries in the bedroom?
So they're the ones who might have like a script in mind,
Maybe so.
so to speak.
But again, it's important to remember that these are just generalizations.
Of course.
Individual experiences can vary widely.
Right, because someone might be a feeling type, but also have a really strong sense of adventure.
Yeah.
And a willingness to experiment.
Absolutely.
Or they could be a judging type who's also incredibly sensitive and attuned to their partner's needs.
Right. Personality is complex.
It is.
It's multifaceted.
Yeah.
We can't just reduce individuals to simplistic categories.
Based on their MBTI type.
Exactly.
All right, deep divers, we've reached the end of our journey.
The end of the road.
Into the world of MBTI and sexual preferences.
It's been quite a ride.
It has been. So,
Yeah.
what are some key takeaways from this whole deep dive?
I think first and foremost, it's
Yeah.
crucial to approach this topic with an open mind
Mm-hmm.
and a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah.
MBTI can be a fun and insightful tool for self-discovery,
It can.
but it's not a crystal ball
Right.
that can predict anyone's sexual preferences or behaviors.
But don't judge a book by its 4-letter cover.
Exactly. Secondly,
Yeah.
we need to recognize that human sexuality is incredibly diverse,
Yes, it is.
and there's no single right way to experience intimacy.
Absolutely, what works for one person or couple might not work for another.
Right.
And that's perfectly okay.
More than okay.
Variety is the spice of life.
It really is.
Whether you're into vanilla or something a little more adventurous,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about finding what feels good and authentic to you.
To you and your partner.
Yes.
Yes.
And thirdly, this discussion just highlights the importance of open and honest communication
Yeah, communication is key.
in any relationship,
Always.
especially when it comes to intimacy.
Especially when it comes to intimacy.
Talking about your needs, your desires, your boundaries.
All of it.
It's crucial for creating a safe and fulfilling experience for both partners.
Absolutely. You have to talk to each other.
Any other final thoughts before we wrap up?
You know, I think it's worth noting that our fascination with connecting personality types to sexual preferences, it really speaks to a deeper human desire for self-understanding and connection.
Mm-hmm.
We're constantly seeking patterns and explanations
Mm-hmm.
for why we are the way we are and how we relate to others.
It's like we're all trying to solve the puzzle of human nature,
Yes.
one piece at a time.
One piece at a time.
And maybe, just maybe, understanding our MBTI type
Yeah.
can help us fit a few more pieces into place.
It's a good starting point.
Yes, all right, folks. That concludes our deep dive into the sometimes surprising, often hilarious
Always fascinating.
world of MBTI and sexual preferences.
Did it.
We did it. We hope this conversation has sparked some insights, challenged some assumptions, and maybe even inspired you to have some open and honest conversations with your partner.
That's the goal.
It is, remember, intimacy is a journey, not a destination.
Well said.
And the more we understand ourselves and each other,
Yeah,
the more fulfilling that journey can be.
absolutely.
And if all else fails, there's always kinky ice cream.
There's always ice cream.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep those conversations flowing.
Bye, everyone.